No. What's going on behind us here? It's a story time, isn't it? Look at that.
Jack Meggitt-Phillips joins this morning. Not long ago, he was writing children's stories in his free time, but things have quickly changed, haven't they?
They have. It's been a very bizarre couple of years.
You've just released your, fourth book in a row. It's called The Beast and Bethany series. And now a film adaptation is in the pipeline.
I know.
Well.
I mean, when I found out about that, I thought it was some sort of elaborate heist from my mother. But, yes, no, it's
your
extraordinary.
Biggest fan?
She is, yes. Every time, it says it's on some sort of best-selling chart, I'm pretty sure it's my mum buying all the copies. But who knows? We'll see.
Shall we talk about The Beast and Bethany?
Yes.
For anyone who doesn't know. So this is quite a macabre idea.
Yes, it's sort of a mixture of sort of funny and fearsome. So The Beast and the Bethany is basically about a young 500-year-old, a hungry beast, and a child who may or may not about to be eaten. Ebenezer Tweezer keeps a beast in the attic of his mansion, and he feeds this beast all manner of things, everything from the king cobras to the crown jewels. And in return, the beast vomits out presents and potions which keep Ebenezer young, beautiful and fabulous. And the story really begins with the beast demanding to be brought the worst-behaved child in the world, and that's Bethany.
And was that the beast? We saw one of the images there was the beast,
yes.
I think, the
beast
jaws of the beast.
Yes, it's a terrifying. And the illustrations are done by the brilliant Isabel Falath. And when I saw them, even I jumped back from the page thinking, oh, my goodness, I'm going to have nightmares for quite some time.
It's the joy of this story is clearly that you kind of just go, wow. It's like you're really letting go with the imagination and the way things are. You go to schools, don't you, and talk to them about writing, about your books.
Yes.
What happens when you do that?
Well, like I said, I like to think I go pretty wild on the imagination front. Yeah. And then I go to schools and get children writing stories. And the things they come up with are so bonkers and brilliant and sometimes just absolutely terrifying. Their imaginations are so untamed and so gloriously wild that I end up coming back from the school events quite glum about how sort of paltry my own imagination is in comparison, really.
Was that like you when you were you young? When you were younger, because you're still quite young now, were you full of stuff? Was it all there waiting to come out?
Yes, I think I probably was. I mean, I've got a sort of weird habit of whenever I sort of go around, I'm constantly thinking of stories. If I see a missing painting, I have to think, there's been some grand, jewel theft going on or something. I suppose when I was about 10, there was a creative writing competition, and that was the first bit of writing I'd ever done. And I love that.
It's so interesting you talk about writing and talking to children about writing as well, because we've got the 500 words competition as well. And whenever we've got an author on, particularly ones who have an affinity with children, as a children's author, your tips for someone, a young person who could enter the competition, but 500 words seems quite a lot or seems quite scary putting your ideas on, what should they do?
Well, I think
or what should they think about?
I think if anyone's thinking of competing in this competition and they're struggling how to come up with a story, then if they just look at where they are this Halloween, whether they're in their living room watching TV, whether they're at the zoo, whether they're in some sort of gallery, and if they just ask themselves, what's the worst thing that can happen right now? That's a great way to create stories. What happens if you're watching TV and a scary monster climbs out of the screen? What happens if the world's deadliest penguin escapes from the zoo? Or what happens if the paintings begin to move in the gallery? If you just constantly ask yourself, what could go wrong next? That's a brilliant engine for children to create plot. And, I think everyone's a writer. All they need to do is pick up the pen and sort of let their imaginations go free.
Do you think we're good, I'm not going to blame teachers, I don't mean it that way at all, but within the sort of education system, about letting people have freedom of expression, just letting it go? Because sometimes I think that, if you're not one of those persons, maybe it's you sitting in a classroom who's kind of going off into a place, that is kind of stamped on a little bit.
Well, I feel incredibly sorry for teachers because I think they've got so many objectives they have to hit, especially with sort of some of the changes to curriculum, when you've got so many sort of tick boxes to do. The first thing that gets squeezed is that sense of play in the classroom. So, teachers do it because they're brilliant, wonderful people, but I think if there was a way of sort of embedding it and allowing more space for children just to read for pleasure, to write for pleasure, to just have those moments when, like you say, they can just go free, then I think that would be great for everyone, really.
Can I ask a random question?
Yes,
it probably
I love
won't feel random. Halloween, you mentioned.
Yes.
What's this about you and being great at spooky laughs?
Oh, dear. Oh, gosh. Well, the way I write is a bit bizarre, and I think my neighbours must think I'm bonkers, because I do a lot of talking to myself, normally in my beast voice. So I'm saying, oh, Jack, what chapter shall we write today? And that sort of thing. You're right to look terrified. So I have sort of developed a variety of beastly laughs. Do you want to hear a few, or is that too much?
Oh,
OK,
yes.
all right.
Oh, yes.
So I've got one, which is called the Psycho Pixie, which is quite high-pitched but sinister. So it goes... I've got one which is more of a classic mwahaha, which is, well, it's just mwahaha, really.
Oh, come on. Give it some gusto.
Mwahaha. Or if you want one for Christmas, maybe you've got some parties coming up and you'd like to, have a conversation starter, then a bad Santa is always useful. Ideally, you're holding a mince pie in one hand and you just go, ho, 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 ho. So, yeah, I'm sure I'm going to lose my mind by the end.
Multi-talented. It's been a joy talking to you, Jack.
Oh,
Thank you. Thanks for the tips as well. Jack's new book, The Beast and the Bethany, Child of the Beast, is out now. And for more information on this year's 500 words competition, visit bbc.co.uk/500 words.